morning and welcome to Trading with Larry. Larry Benedict here with Eric Shamalov coming off of a complete crash yesterday where the Nasdaq was down over 2% and pretty much all day Nasdaq was underperforming S&P and it got really interesting towards the end of the day. But if you slept through last night or into the early evening, you wouldn't have realized that the S&P was down 50 handles and the Nasdaq was down another 300 because everything is back to unchanged pretty much this morning. I think a lot of that came out of Asia. Asia really got hit. Japan got hit pretty hard to the tune of at the beginning 4%, but ended down off the lows. Overall, it's a mixed bag here. The ADP number came out strong. It's really weird. ADP was weak for the last 2 months leading up to this month, and they were wrong on every actual jobs number that came out. And now they're showing jobs growth where really there's probably none. So I don't know how reliable those numbers, but really the takeaway is maybe all these numbers are just, they're just survey numbers, compiled by people, and maybe they're not correct. But bonds are having a little bit of an adverse reaction, meaning they're going down a bit and yields are back to 410. I mean, I think this is very longer term. I'm not saying for today or whatever, but longer term, I feel like this is problematic for the market where you've had the Fed use 3 rate cuts, recently, and bond yields have not come in and they're above 4%. And if things get a little sketchy, maybe bonds tick up and maybe we go back to 5%. I mean, maybe that's, something that could happen. I'm not saying that it will, but it could. And again, bonds are a little bit weak this morning. It's interesting. You could kind of tell the flavor of the moment or the flavor of the middle day or part of the day. And what I would say to you, and we spoke a little bit last night when the markets were down on the lows. You saw gold rallying, you saw Bitcoin. Listen, Bitcoin, I think, is a sale on every rally. I think gold is a sale on every rally for the time being. You got to be careful, but I do believe that. I don't think we saw any type of washout in Bitcoin. We saw some volume acceleration through 100,000. It got down almost 99,000. We saw some volume pickup there, but nothing crazy. Nothing like what I think you'll see when people liquidate out of, Bitcoin. And gold, it's up $20. It was down last night. But overall, I think these markets I think they're tapped, meaning that the sellers are in control. You know how like the buyers were in control for a long period of time. I think sellers are in control, and when you get any types of rallies, you should put out gold, put out Bitcoin. And again, what's been working for me is selling out of the money spreads, call spreads, both in gold and in Bitcoin. I do that through IBIT. You could do that through the IBIT ETF on Bitcoin. You could do it through GLD. And what that does for you is it gives you leeway. So let's say, spot gold is trading at you know 39.70 ish. You could go up to 40.50. So you're protected up, $7 in GLD. You don't make as much money on the down move, but you're protected on the upside. And those trades have actually been working. It was a little bit of a tough stretch over the last couple of months, month and a half, with the acceleration in on these markets, but now it feels like even on the equity side, it feels like the acceleration is at minimally slowing and maybe turning direction. So, I mean that's what I'm seeing here. Like even this morning, the old action would be, to rip them up 10, 15 handles, and we just got to unchanged on the day, and then we're back down. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that kind of stuff, but that's what I'm seeing. But it was kind of weird. Like when the SPU was on the low, gold was on the low, and then all of a sudden gold started to reverse, and gold and Bitcoin reversed before the market reversed off the low. So I think those are good things to look at in the market right now. I guess it's called, risk on, risk off. And those are your biggest risk assets, even more than equities. So I'll throw it to you. You could tell me what you're thinking, what you're looking at this morning, and I'm hoping for a good trading day today.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Word about rates. You were talking about rates, and bonds have been weak since the Fed put in question the December rate cut. I don't think the market has reacted to that at all. Even with, yeah, I think yesterday's sell off in stocks has more to do with a little bit of skepticism on valuation, maybe globally. But I don't think they're even have reacted at all towards rates. And I was looking at rates last night to see if there's any kind of trade there. I couldn't figure it out. I see what you're saying, that it could take rates could go up higher, um, and usually what gets the market down is the Fed. Like when there's a disconnect between what the market thinks is going to happen and what the Fed actually does, and when the market realizes it at some point, that's usually good for about five to 10% down. I don't think the market has even reacted to that. So the question is, are they going to cut in December or not? So that's one thing. The second thing
I
from
say
last
no.
night, yeah, go ahead. You
No,
wanted
I
to say
say
something.
they're not going to cut in December. I think, it's not going to happen. I think, today strikes the longest government shutdown in history. No one's talking about that very much. Another thing no one's talking about, which is, I guess, flavor of the minute, flavor of the day, they're about a week and change out, from it's almost 2 weeks, a week and a half from Besant saying we have an unbelievable framework for a deal. And we're over a week out from, from Trump going there, flying on on Air Force One, going out there thinking he's getting a deal. Got nothing, got on the plane and went home, and you haven't heard a thing about it since. Um, you know, and when they left the meeting, he said the meeting was a 12 out of 10 and everything is amazing. And really, I just can't believe the market is so forgiving that it doesn't even call to task the fact that, there is no trade deal. You could see in soybeans or whatever that they're supposed to buy all these beans, and bean market hasn't moved. Okay. So that's not, these are things that are honestly not going to happen. And we're in a spot now where it's, you know, it's just not top of mind. And then you're going to get either a headline coming tomorrow, the next day, whenever, that, the deal is shot. China didn't whatever, and he's going to tariff them back at 100%. And then they're going to go, oh, that's too much. Oh, 50%. Or they're going to come up with the framework for a subpar deal. But really, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but really, we haven't done any trade deals at all. So I don't know how the market's so forgiving of that, to be honest. And then something that I know we want to talk about is the election last night across the country, where Democrats didn't lose anything. They didn't lose, referendums. They didn't lose. one race, okay? And to me, that speaks volumes of where we are, and the Democratic Party is like in disarray, and they're still winning, like disarray. And I mean, so I think maybe the market, maybe a little of the sell off on top of being Asia last night was the fact that the Republican Party. I mean, it's shaping up. They're going to get blown out in the midterms if things continue the way they are, and it's shocking that could be the case because the Democratic Party is is just ridiculous. So, I think people are tired. They're tired of the taco trade or the taco guy who says he's going to do whatever he's going to do, and then nothing materializes. Nothing. I mean, look at Ukraine, Russia. You don't even hear anything about it anymore, but that stuff's raging at a very high level. Nothing done there. Um, we did the greatest Middle East peace deal of all time. That is on the verge of 100% blowing up. Hamas hasn't done one thing they said they were going to do, and that is moments away from breaking out. Tariffs are on, they're off. No one knows what they really are. So these things are, for me, top of mind. And I'd like to see, for me, screws put in. Like, put the screws to these people. If you're really saying you're going to do this stuff, do it. And I think, you know, that's one of the things that people, I think, are, even though on the surface, it looks like it doesn't really matter, but I think the voting shows it. And from Mandami to win New York in a literal blowout, and we were talking like off the air, but everyone's like, "Oh, Swila should have dropped. Curtis
Yeah,
Swila should have dropped
yeah.
out." Swila. Anyway, he should have dropped out. But if you added his votes to Cuomo, he still lost. So even if that guy dropped out, he still lost. That's how the margin of victory was. So that's speaking volumes, right? And it's, I think, something going on across the nation. And It's interesting. I like this opening actually. Market was down. Now the market is up on the highs of the day. And I like this opening for a trading short. So we're going to look to sell some upside call spread. In full disclosure, for people out there that do subscribe to my products, we've been doing pretty well, and the S&P Spread Trader (LSP) is on a run. Had another very good day yesterday, and we're really knocking on the door of being positive. And I'm hoping potentially by the end of the week that this product will be positive, and it'll give us a month and a half or a little more to really take this thing up. So all of our products across the board are positive on the year. I'm happy about that. So people that are following us, I hope you're following the trades and doing well. I know the year's been interesting and choppy. Looking back on my year, yeah, January, February, March were like the best start I think I've ever had, especially in the subscription newsletter business. We've been crushing, and then everything kind of changed mid-year. Rode a little bit of the long, but didn't really have the long for the big part of the move. But you know, I think there's good opportunity coming. I'm just shocked, and I'll throw this to you. Like the market can't even put together 2 down days. What is that? I mean, what is that? Like they're buying the dip, they love it.
You said it before. I think the market is in hear no evil, see no evil mode, and we'll see. It's interesting on days like this where the futures overnight, go down like 1%, come right back up to unchanged, slightly positive right before the open. That's a time where I'm kind of looking at iron condors for the day. What do you think?
You got to pick when you do an iron condor. I wouldn't do the condor. I like to pick the direction. So, like, if you think this market is not going to rip higher, it already ripped. I mean, the S&P is 50 points off the low, so looking up 50 is not a bad spot. But it's funny. Like I was looking at
Straddles
stocks last night, Eric, and Nvidia traded down to 195. Meta traded down at 615. Um, Palantir traded at 184. All of these stocks have reversed like massively this morning. Nvidia is back to $200 a share. Um, and, the Q, which was trading at like 612, is 620. I mean, did pretty big moves.
Yeah.
So we have to remain vigilant. But to me, the setup is like upside call spreads today, and that's sort of what I'm looking at.
Well, it's a 40-point straddle this morning.
Yeah.
Uh, 40 points up. I think SPX is opening up around 67.75.
Well, I
So
think it's way too early to predict where it's going to open. I
based
mean,
on where the futures are right now. So
oh no,
like
I
a
know
six.
the implied is whatever, but most people are not trading at this moment in time, unless you have a futures account or you're enabled to trade SPX. So we got to kind of wait for the opening for that. I listen.
You could actually trade SPX right now.
No, I
It's
said
open.
you can trade SPX and you can trade futures options,
Yeah.
but other than that, you can't trade equity options and you can't trade
Right.
really anything else. So, we could price up the straddle right now, but it's most people are going to have to wait, especially if you trade SPY or Q or whatever. But, overall, dollar's acting well, still acting well, and it's not moving today. But it's interesting that the market, I hope the market stays here because this is a kind of opening you like. Come on, like yesterday, the S&P was down 1%. We're 2% or less from an all-time high, and people are freaking out. I mean, they're skittish. No one's selling. No one's selling no matter what. You know that. I mean, you know that. You've been in this business long enough to know that no one's selling, but no matter what, no matter where, no matter what. So no one wants to take a profit. No one wants the big thing is quote unquote, no one wants to pay taxes on their gains. Um, that's led that leads to a lot of trouble in my mind. A lot of trouble. Just I'd say take your listen. I When I ran my hedge fund, I always wanted to pay as much taxes as I could because that meant I made as much money as I could, right? So, there's nothing wrong with making a lot of money and paying taxes. Just remember that. And remember, nothing lasts forever. So you don't want to get caught in the next bear market. I know we're never having, what's funny? People actually think we're never going to have a bear market or we're never going to go down or nothing bad can happen. Why is that? Do they forget? Is it like selective memory? like, like I'm just trying to understand why, and then every time we go down, like we're talking now, and off of one day, VIX is back at 19. Why is VIX at 19? That's what I don't understand. Why is it at 19? Because we went down 2%, 1.5%. What's going to happen when we go down 10%? It's going to go to 50, 45. Where's it going? Maybe that's the play, you know. I don't know. They like to sell vol, but I thought we'd have an exciting trading day today with some action. It certainly doesn't look like that. May put out some Bitcoin today. Maybe wait for it to go a little bit higher, but I think it's going to wrestle with the 100,000 area, and you know, I think it may have problems. So and bonds are back to 411 as we're on the air, over 411. This is like high yield in a while. So I guess no one cares really about much. You know, P's up 5. Um, stocks are mixed. AMD was down 12. It's now down like 4. Meta, looked a little shaky overnight last night, but it's back to a good level, so you don't have to worry about that. Nvidia got down to 194 last night, back to 200. They're adding and subtracting $500 billion in Nvidia almost on a daily. It's crazy. I mean, think about that. And that's good for trading. Palantir, do not like that name longer term. I think it's probably out of every stock on the board the most overvalued stock by a lot, a lot, a lot. The numbers came in good, but if you really look at the revenue numbers and you look at the valuation, there's no correlation. And I don't know if you saw Alex Karp was on CNBC cursing yesterday at anyone trying to sell his stock short. My thought is, why does he care? Like, the guy's a billionaire. He shouldn't care, and he should want everyone to short his stock because when people short the stock and they're wrong, the stock goes up so much more. So I don't know what the guy, I don't know what the guy is thinking. But
Elon Musk loves when people short his stock, by the way. So to your point,
yeah, but it's a different vibe with Alex Karp. It doesn't feel right, him cursing and going crazy on the air. And he's a really obviously a brilliant guy, but a little bit bizarre. And but I think that stock is overvalued right now, my opinion. It could trade back down to the summer lows at like 140, maybe even lower. I don't think it comes like today or whenever, but I think you can lean short that name and be okay. Um, it's funny when the stock was doing poorly and it was under $10, their earnings were horrendous. But maybe that's the time you want to buy stocks is when horrendous earnings come out. They throw the baby out with the bathwater, and then, now they had the best earnings they've ever had, which aren't, enough to make the stock go higher. And maybe that's the time you want to get out. But needless to say, markets are flat across the board. Nasdaq up about 10 points and S&P up 3 points. Um, VIX popped last night above 20. When we were down there, pretty good. Um, Today I think is an upside call day. Sell upside calls in the market. Um, Again, we've been without. What do you think about this? We've been without headline risk for a while. There hasn't been any like truth social crazy truth social posts, etc. I wonder if he's going to comment about the elections across the board. I doubt it since they lost everything. um, and he endorsed Cuomo in a
actually, I think he'll say something because Mamdani came after him in the acceptance speech, so I'm sure he's gonna react.
what did he say? I didn't see it.
Um, he was going after him a little bit. Kind of really changed his tone from the campaign. The campaign he was nice and warm and you know as soon as he won, he's like, I'm going to implement everything you guys thought I was going to implement. And he went after Trump a little bit, so it's going to be interesting. Trump went after him. He went after Trump. I'm sure Trump is going to address it.
I don't know.
He can't be that taco.
He is total taco, but they got wiped out last night, which
They,
was very surprising. Very surprising. And I think it's going to set the table for the midterms.
Virginia also. You left out Virginia.
No, I said every race. I mean, they won every race. New Jersey, they won everything. They didn't lose anything, and that's a statement. And the funny thing is, equity markets have performed well for the first year under Trump. I mean, listen, we had a mid-year sell-off. We're ending the year, we're up 16. not, better than the average. So you have people feeling, pretty good. What's going to happen when people don't feel so good and the market start? Listen, we're so overdue for a correction that it's unbelievable. So whether it happens today, next week, in 3 weeks, or even into the beginning of next year, it's going to happen, and it's going to happen before the midterms. So for Trump, it's better to get it out of the way earlier rather than later, because if the market's looking skittish and things are looking bad into the election, that's a problem, I think, for sure. But right now markets are fairly tame. I didn't think we were going to come in and have this opening. Stocks are, I keep looking, they're mixed. Um, you know, Palantir's down small, Nvidia is up small. It's just funny. Like if you had the ability to trade last night,
That's what I'm saying. Maybe an iron condor kind of day here. I
yeah,
like the premium, like 50 points out in either direction.
what's the
I'm liking.
premium?
Well, the 68,
Well, where's the
68,
straddle? Where's the straddle? That's the
40,
real key.
40, 40.
Yeah, so then those options 50 out are going to be a couple of bucks, you know? So if you're doing spreads, there's not a lot in it. 40 straddle is good, but not great. So I don't think a 40 straddle is right. I mean, maybe I'm more worried about the downside on the 40 straddle than the
Actually, it's
upside.
less. Actually, it's less. It's actually 37, 37, 37 and change.
Yeah,
So
I don't love it. I don't love it. But listen, I'm happy about it. It's funny, the VIX was exploding last night, and then it's come in all morning. Um, and It's weird. It's just a weird day. I mean, like Nvidia's up $1.25. It was down 4.5 last night. So that's $6. That's like $150 billion flipped in market cap since last night, for basically no reason other than that the futures stabilized. What else do I see? Bitcoin up small, gold up, 25, you know, was
silver
down.
looks good. Silver
Silver
looks good.
still. Nah, dude. You know what? I'm looking. I know you love them, and you love everything. You love Bitcoin. You love equities. You love gold. You love what else? You love everything, dude. You're a loving kind of guy. You like everything, and I'm a
Yeah,
hater. And I'm a
yeah, you're
hater.
very negative, pessimistic.
I am. I'm a hater. Well, no, my thought is this, okay? And obviously now we're run by algorithmic computers and all of that, but my thought is, and I always equate it to like being a doctor or whatever. Like I can't do brain surgery on someone tomorrow. Okay. I don't know how to do it. So my question is, I've been doing options for 40 years. I know how to price them down to the penny. I see where things are not priced correctly, and people are buying zillions of options, not understanding anything about pricing. They're not understanding volatility, and they're able to come into the marketplace and make money. I mean, I think most people lose money trading these options, but they're like gambling tools now. They just, listen, like there's a lot of people today. There's a casino like 20 minutes from our office that drive to the casino and sit and pull a lever all day. So rather than be bored doing that, you can basically re up in the market every day and buy options and pray that you're going to be right. So when you say I'm pessimistic, I'm realistic that over time, that people that do not have the knowledge to play a game that is statistical and mathematical, okay, will end up making money over time, and I'll stick to that forever. Okay, I
I
just
think we as traders, we have to be skeptical. But to go back to your analogy, I love that analogy of the brain surgery. But so what's happening is you have all these fake brain surgeons now, right? and they're operating on the brain, but the people are surviving somehow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but I
what do
don't know, like, if you take the temperature out there, right? Dude, anyone could do brain surgery. It's easy. It's just remember the game?
you?
I don't know, you're so young, but there was this game.
Nobody's dying.
Dude,
That's
there
the
was this
problem.
game called there was this great game back in the day called Operation, and you would
Yeah,
go in with a tool and you'd try to pick out like the funny bone and it would beep. I mean, the game was like so antiquated compared to where we are now, but it was a fun game. But that's what it's like. I mean, listen, there is professionalism involved in price. Listen, anyone can buy or sell a stock. I mean, that's just, guesswork and clicking a button. But when you're figuring out what option to buy, what the volatility is, what the pricing is, why this is mispriced because of put call parity, you know, um, and then nobody cares. So listen, I'm happy about it because it gives us here at the Opportunistic Trader and the Opportunistic Trader ETF Wizard WZRD the opportunity to make money in a market that is inefficient because of what's going on. But there's just so many, honestly, so many cheat codes that are out there for these firms. Like, you know, um, they caught all these guys in the NBA, rigging poker game. I mean, we're trading $1 billion rig game. This is $1 billion rig game right here. Do you hear me? $1 billion rig game. It's rigged. It's rigged. They see the orders, but I don't want to get crazy today because I have to wrap in 10 minutes, but um, they see your orders, they front run the orders. There's latency issues to your orders versus the billion-dollar firms. There's just so much cheating going on that
Yeah,
they're
but they
allowing.
have that edge. Okay, so they have that edge over you, let's say, and most people,
But why?
where
It's an illegal edge. It's an
you also have
illegal
edge,
what?
but you but there's also edge that you have that they don't have. They're not in. They don't have any holding period. They're in and out. Okay, you got to wait them out. I mean, our edge is holding period intraday.
That's not an
That's our
edge. No,
well.
listen,
That is an
we're
edge.
giving
That is an edge.
we're Eric, we're giving up the edge. Okay. So if I want to buy Palantir stock right now, let's say, I have to give up an edge to get involved. Okay. That
Yeah.
is not legal. It's just not legal. It's an amazing thing what's going on. It is illegal. It is illegal that XYZ firm sees my order before it goes to the exchange. It's illegal. And I can't really, because I don't trade a lot of stock, okay? But I know on the future side that that's happening on every trade that I do. Every trade that I do goes to a co-location and the co-location sends my order to the exchange. Why do they have a co-location? Why can't my order just either go to the exchange or not be uncovered? My order is uncovered at the co-location. Now, these are in milliseconds, but I'm going and Citadel's going. Who do you think's winning that race to the exchange?
Yeah,
Who?
clearly, yeah, clearly,
Okay, so
Citadel.
that shouldn't even be legal. So the bottom line is yes.
Okay, but what is Citadel going to do? Like, what are they going to do in 5 minutes, in 2 minutes after the trade?
What are you
They're
talking
out of
about?
that.
They're in and out of the trade in split seconds through a computer.
Right.
A human being, Eric, a human being couldn't do this. Not even close. So what they do is they're racing me to the exchange. Just hear this. They're racing me to the exchange. Okay. The market in futures is 25 bid at 50. Okay. I'm trying to buy 50s. Okay. They get to the exchange, they buy all the 25s and they sell me the 50s. Okay. So what do you mean? They don't have to do anything. And it's all done computer. So they can do this. They do this on tens of thousands, if not hundreds and hundreds of thousands, or even millions of trades a day. It's every trade for every person. So that's the inherent disadvantage, okay, for everybody out there. But when we're in a rip roaring bull market like we've been, Do you care if you bought Nvidia at 199.50 or 199.70? Like you said, it's holding time. So for the people that are buying it, it doesn't matter. They got ripped for 15 cents, okay? Because they're selling it up $2. But wait to the time when we're not in a bull market anymore, okay? And they're coming in to buy, and then they're not able to get out. Then this stuff is going to get uncovered. And listen, I've talked about it with people that are on this podcast right now listening. The market is rigged to the upside. And you know why the stock market is rigged to the upside? I'm going to tell you why. You want to know why? Do you have an idea?
I know. No, I do know why.
Why?
Because earnings always go up.
It has nothing to do with earn. It has
That's the
zero
biggest.
to do
That
with
is rig. There's a rig intraday, but at the end of the day, the market is just chasing earnings.
Listen to me.
Earnings up.
Okay, they're chasing earnings. Palantir's earnings on the
That one,
surface
that one I'll give you.
No, I'm just saying they look good, but they're not good. Okay, relative to the market cap, relative to the valuation. I'm going to tell you, you went away from what the rig is. Okay, the rig is this. Okay, and I've seen this through my career, and they figured this out. And Jane Street got caught in India rigging the market. I don't know if anyone picked up that. If you Google Jane Street India trade, you'll see exactly the anatomy of a rigged trade. Okay. It's actually an amazing thing. And Jane Street kind of did this early days in the stock market. But after the flash crash, okay, which made people billions, okay, there are guys out there that made billions and billions of dollars in the flash crash. And what happened after the flash crash is they literally went after a guy in London, okay, living above a gas station, who they claimed caused the flash crash, which obviously is not true. Okay, he layered sell orders into the market, spoofed the market, and the market dropped off of that. It's the algos have become a lot more sophisticated, so that probably can happen again. But that's what caused the flash crash. But here's where the rig came in. You ready for the rig? Ready for it?
I'm so ready.
Okay, so the market, people were getting indicted, people were getting in trouble for the market going down. They were investigating, okay? But as long as they rig the market to the upside, will there ever be an investigation? I'm just trying to understand. So they rig the market to the upside because they know nobody cares if the market goes up. They can keep rigging and rigging and rigging. It's just a matter of when the market goes down. The second the market goes down 25, 30, 40%, they're going to have 60 Well, now the government's closed, so they won't have anything. But they'll have 50 investigations. Who did what firms where. So right now, the firms have gotten together and they're like, you know what? We're just going to rig the market up. We'll do our thing. We'll make I mean, come on. Jane Street's up like $15 billion this year, maybe more now. I mean, the numbers are staggering. Okay. And those numbers are not coming from taking risk. They're taking no risk. Listen, I was a specialist on the floor. We had an inherent advantage. We were making markets in stocks on the trading floor and we saw the orders. Let me ask you a question. If you saw the orders, how hard is it to win?
That's pretty easy.
Okay, so I worked at a firm. We didn't have a losing month in 11 years. I worked there 11 years. We didn't have a losing month. Now these guys are so sophisticated, they have it down to the day. Virtu didn't have a losing day for years. How is that trading? Let me ask you, how is that trading? Tell me what part of that is trading.
Well, let me ask you a different question. Who do you
Well,
think is bigger and
I'm asking for an
yeah,
answer.
but
What
it's
part of
not
that is trading?
okay. They may rule intraday, like intraday
Eric,
trading. They
Eric,
100% they rule intraday trading.
I'm trying
But
to ask
who
you
do
a
you think
question.
is bigger
Time
and
out.
stronger?
Is it trading? Stop. Is it trading if you don't have a losing day in years? Is that trading? Are you trading today? Do you have a possibility of losing today?
Yeah.
Okay, well, they don't. So that's not trading. That's cheating. Okay? That's cheating. No different than the cheating that is going on. No different than the cheating that was going on in the rigged poker game. Okay? Where they had it. Let me ask you a question. Could they lose having an X-ray machine under the table seeing down cards or having marked cards that show the cards? It's cheating. So the bottom line is yes. Do we have a chance to win? Yeah, we have a chance to win. Okay. But you're operating instantly in the hole on every trade you do. There is no trade that you have an advantage on. It used to not be like that. Used to not be like that. You,
But
as a trader, could create the advantage. You can't create the advantage. You're at a
who's
disadvantage.
bigger and stronger? Okay, they rule the intraday world, but they don't rule the investment world. You know what I mean? So the pension funds, the hedge funds, the endowment funds, the private equity, they're really ruling the market, Larry, and you
What
know that. Much
ruling the
bigger.
market? No, they're not. They're not ruling
They're
the market.
selling
They're passive investors. So there's a
yeah,
whole new
until
avenue.
they're ready to reallocate and say, okay, the economy is going to do this or
They're
that.
never going to reallocate. Why would they reallocate? What are they going to
They reall-
reallocate
you know
to?
why we had you know why we had the 2022 bear market, because they were reallocating.
We had
That
the
was the only
we
year.
had the 2022 bear market for reasons that no longer exist in this market. And the reason was that rates were high, going higher, okay, to five and a
Right.
quarter on Fed funds, timeout, okay? And they thought that technology needed to borrow tons of money, which they still do, okay, and that their earnings wouldn't be there because rates were high. I mean, that was really the premise for that market. And
Because that's
right, but the same reason is there today. The same reason is there today, and the market doesn't care. The same way
no,
the market
it's not
cares.
there. They don't think
Eric,
rates are going higher.
listen, you have passive investors. The people you're talking about are never selling. Yeah, they may go from 85% stocks to 82. They're not getting out of stocks until they have to. I've seen this.
Exactly.
I've seen this movie for freaking 40 years. Okay,
Yeah.
40 straight years of this. But we're talking about different things. Okay. I'm talking like you're saying, and you're not wrong. You're saying, hey, we're trading in a different time frame and blah blah blah. But dude, do you know in sports gambling, there's something called the VIG? Okay. You know what the VIG is? That's what you pay now. There's no more bookies because everything's online, but you pay your sports book 10% of the action on every trade. That's the VIG. They know. Why do you think the casinos are made of gold? Okay. And have, $1 million art and whatever in it is because they have the inherent advantage and you can't win over time. And here it's the same thing. And what we're trying to do with the opportunistic trader, okay, is show people ways to operate in the ongoing system and use our quote unquote edge, which is the pricing of options, the mispricing, the fact that, options volumes are the biggest they've ever been in history. In history. I mean, this is an incredible thing. And the people buying them are buying them out of control. They don't know what they're doing. So that's
By the
our
way,
advantage. That's our
by the
advantage.
way, by the way, I knew the opportunistic trader was going to go on a hot streak. I called it.
You
I
did?
know how you trade
Dude,
like
what
the
are you
back of
trying
my.
to jinx it?
I'm
Dude,
not. No, I'm
honestly,
still waiting
literally,
on
touchdown.
Larry.
Hold on. Come on, dude. What is
No, no,
that?
I
Listen,
I know
you
what
know
happened.
you're an amateur trader. Dude, you are so amateur right now that
Oh
I
my
can't
god!
even.
Oh my
You
god!
never, ever
Stop!
talk about
Stop!
P&L. Ever.
You can't,
Never. Oh my God. Dude, hold
bro.
on.
You believe
Liquidate the whole portfolio. You
Oh
are a
my god!
clown.
Believe
Do not talk
crap
about my
in my room.
P&L ever.
You're one of those
Okay?
traders that doesn't change his clothes when he's on a hot streak.
Exactly. You never
Oh my
listen.
god!
Can I talk for people out there? You make money, you never brag, you never talk about it, and it's a job. And my job is to continue to make P&L day
So there
after
you go.
day, never talk about it, and be thankful that we have the ability to do it. We don't talk about the hot streak we're on
Don't
ever,
be
never.
scared.
So I don't know who he's talking about. It's not me.
No,
Okay.
I'm actually complimenting myself, not you, for
Okay. Well,
calling
I
it.
appreciate that. But anyway, I got to, I actually have to go to a meeting. So I'm going to get close to wrapping. You've definitely jinxed the opportunistic
I
trader.
just
So
don't know how you
people out
do
there,
well
the
being
timeout,
so
people out there, the symbol is WZRD. Okay. We've been upticking. Everything's been, knock on wood, going okay. But be afraid to buy it because we just got jinxed. You never talk about your P&L ever, ever, ever.
I'm not
I've
talking
been
about
doing
the
this. I've been doing this for a
whatever.
very long time. I had a hedge fund for very many years that was very, very successful. Nobody, including friends, family, or anyone, ever knew what I was doing. People used to calculate it. I swear this is true. So they knew my management fee. They knew the percentage and they would back into the number and they're like, "Oh, you made X this year." I'm like, "Great." So the bottom line is nobody knows. You go in, it's a professional business. I think what you get from this podcast today, again, I would sell upside. I just want to be clear. I'm a seller of gold. I'm a seller of Bitcoin, not aggressively through call spreads. But I would say, realize that, you talk about time frame, which is not a bad thing to talk about. But I'm talking about an inherent disadvantage. And the guy behind me who executes all my flow, I'm going to have him on tomorrow on the podcast talking about what happens to us on every trade that we do. Okay. So we're getting robbed on every trade. It's like what you said. Yeah, Eric, it doesn't matter. You know what? If you buy Nvidia right now at 199 and you should have paid 198.80, does it matter to you if you could sell it at 200? Of course not. But all of a sudden, if it doesn't work, it certainly should matter to you. It's called the VIG. You're paying a huge VIG to play this game. So we'll get more into it tomorrow. I apologize. I'm wrapping early. I think, we're pretty clear. I would keep an eye on the bond market. We're almost 412 on the yield. It's a little bit concerning. I think if it gets to 4.25, it becomes very concerning. And I think the government shutdown at some point is going to come into play with the Fed. They can't keep cutting rates in the blind. You know that. So I think they're off the board in December. And I'm going to throw it to you now that you've fully jinxed jinxed our trading.
You actually, you know why traders believe in jinxes? Because when they get hot, they're riding some trend that usually just it's over, right? So whatever,
Okay,
take a
now,
stub.
okay, I feel better. Now you say my trend is over. So we're back, Thomas. We're back. Anyway,
Yeah,
I wish everyone a great day. I think we were concise.
I
Tell
do,
us
I
a
did,
little
I
bit
did want to
about
leave
the
off
guy.
on. Wanted to leave off on a couple of things for people to watch. There's a Supreme Court ruling on tariffs today. So if they strike it down, the administration's going to have to give back a lot of money in tariffs. So I think that's a must watch. And then you have Robinhood earnings, and then you have Ion Q earnings. So that's going to be very important for quantum computing stocks, which I think are a bigger bubble than anything that we're talking about in AI. So that's
What
going to have
what happened?
ramifications.
Yeah, but the government's buying AIs, dude. You know what? You sidetracked me to another point, and I just want to leave it with this: the 60-minute interview with Trump this weekend was classic. It's a must watch. He didn't even know who the guy from Binance was. He doesn't know crap about Bitcoin. And the funniest thing is his kids ran into the room in the White House and said, "We're getting buried on quantum computing, Daddy. Can you please have the government buy stock?" And they came out with some fraudulent thing to buy, stakes of those companies. So, this is what you're dealing with. I wish everyone a great trading day. Eric, you were a pleasure today. Hopefully, you did not jinx WZRD, the wizard stock. So, everyone keep an eye on that, and you'll know tomorrow. Just like when Touchdown T does not show, it's 100% a down day. Enjoy. Peace.